to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam pwnophobia Cogswell. I am joined by 5 great other guys. Beaver from the land of the north finally has borrowed a laptop from one of his buddies sitting up there in university and has everything plugged in. Beaver, what's going on?
Dude, I'm just tilted right now. I've Russian Audacity set up. I want to throw this laptop out of the room. Yeah, it's been a good day, though.
That's been a good day. That's right. Vrail is here, and also Dom is here. We also have Marine, however, has an announcement to make. Marine, I'm giving you the floor right now.
So as of Sunday, I don't go by Marine Revenge anymore. I've been wanting to move away from that. So permanently, it's now Moon Marooned. So all of my links are now Moon Marooned. Twitter's already been Moon Marooned. The Twitch is now Twitch/Moon Marooned. And then the YouTube is as well.
Awesome. So now we have to call you Moon instead, or I'll just call you Dog. Either way. You'll probably say
yeah,
Marine
I respond to Dog, definitely.
And the last dog in the chat is Max. Max, I don't actually know what your summoner name is or what you go by, so why don't you tell the people what that is?
It's TheFoof.
TheFoof. All right. Max is a Patreon subscriber. He did donate to come on in the show. You guys can do that as well at patreon.com/TForce Network. But he came on with a bunch of great topics and decided he wanted to join the proper this time around. Of course, if you do donate, you can pick any podcast you want to do. So if you want to scream at the LCS guys and tell them how their predictions are wrong and tell like Jiggly Duff how good he'd look in cosplay or something, go ahead and just donate and get on there and do it live. Otherwise,
sorry, I missed the intro.
Yeah, that's all right. Dom is here. I just kind of I glazed over Dom because you didn't really have any announcements or nothing.
Yeah, no, my headset was acting up, so I just suddenly saw mouths moving and heard nothing.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm half an hour late, so I think Dom, I think you're okay.
Well, if you guys out there want to support the podcast as well, you can also go to budaboxers.com/TForce. The code TrinityForce is still out there for 20% off. Those are high-quality, amazing boxers made out of bamboo. They wick away the sweat, make it so that you're clean and nice and beautiful throughout your entire rank grind. We are 3 months into the season by now. You should either be starting to finish your placements, do your placements, or have finished them and moved on to a tier that you like to move to, and on your way to that ultimate goal as well. So hopefully a lot of the people here in this chat, I know like Vrail, he finally made it to Diamond this last weekend, and others have either finished or have started working on their rank grind. Oh shit, there's a beaver. A disheveled beaver.
I know, I gotta put my hat on so I don't feel embarrassed by
a 7 frames per second beaver.
He builds
we got a buzz
at lightning speed. All right, Max, I'm going to give you the floor here. I know that you are a budding podcaster and you play League of Legends and you're enjoying other things. I want to know what is your motivation, 1, to podcast, 2, come on the show, and 3, what are we talking about tonight?
Okay, so I guess I'll start with my first thing, why I wanted to start podcasting. I guess I'll plug my podcast first. It's the Master of Mediocrity. It's a sports podcast. We mostly discuss NFL and NBA, basically any of the happenings, topics in professional sports. Why I want to start podcasting was because I listen to so much podcasts. I do design work at a financial consulting company, and I do most of my work on the computer. So I'm listening to 5 to 6 to 7 hours of podcasts a day. So I was like, wait, I could probably do that. Like, why don't I try? Like, I love listening to this stuff, so why don't I just go ahead and do it? So bought a couple of mics, and me and my brother just do it every week. Try and be consistent, but it's a ton of fun. So we just thought, just do it for fun. It's great.
Let me guess.
Yeah,
a lot more work behind the scenes than you originally thought.
Oh gosh, yeah. Especially just like coming up with topics. Sometimes you're like, how do I come up with topics? What do I want to talk about? And then like putting it all together when it comes to like the document of what we're going to do, writing it all down, actually getting statistics, because like sports is really important to have statistics. We have a catchphrase on the show. It's a non-fact checking podcast, because if we were to fact check every single thing, we need another person giving us and feeding us information. Yeah,
that's pretty
exactly.
much our show.
Yeah, like
ESPN has an entire department dedicated to gathering stats and info.
Oh, that'd be so sweet to be a part of that, though.
We have Santana for that.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, we just started doing it a few months ago. Been really like doing it ever since. But yeah, we try and keep the editing to a minimum because it's just two of us doing the whole thing. So we just try and push it out to the people and just be as entertaining as possible. That's our goal.
And here we are, 500 episodes
Here we
in.
are.
Do just the exact opposite. Try to edit as much as we possibly can. Coming to the point where I've made people write down if they cough. I'm like, you need to write down the time so we can edit out that cough. Because I'm like trying to make the podcast sound as best I can.
Totally. I mean, we're just so small that at this point, we're just trying to get better as personalities and as people like talking on the podcast. So it's mostly for fun. And if we got more people involved, then yeah, more editing would be awesome. It's so time consuming though.
You better write that down.
I am. I'm doing it.
The first cough.
Shut up.
Well, you know, my favorite thing about podcasting and getting people into it is the fact that you know, one, you can listen to a ton of people do it, and then you can find out what you like, and you can try to emulate that. I think one of the big things that I found, I told people many years ago, was that like if you listen to a lot of radio or listen to a lot of podcasts and you find a specific personality that you really like, you should try to emulate some of the tendencies of that person or figure out what you like about them and, you know, and do that, because obviously they're successful, so they have something about them people like to listen to. And I found that helped me quite a bit when I first started podcasting, listening to a few radio personalities and just trying to do specific things. I think one of my favorite sticks ever was the whole push the mic away and walk out of the room while you're screaming, because I laugh every single time it does it. So that's kind of where I picked that up from, as you've seen, like when I get really mad.
Yeah. What are some of the like podcasts or radio personalities that you thought did a good job and that would be a good thing to emulate? Or is that crazy of your question?
So like back in the day, see, I'm gonna probably get. Well, I might not get some flack for this. I want to say I will, but who is it? I don't know. Some of you probably have heard the Bob and Tom Show, right? I'm sure some people do, and others, and they're kind of like a controversial show where some people don't like them. But I really liked the broadcaster Chick McGee. I thought he was level-headed. He wasn't like he was, but I kind of liked all his tendencies and how he talked and some of the things he did. He did the push the microphone away stuff, and I was like, I kind of like the way that he goes about doing it. I'm going to try to pick some of those up or take some of that in. Plus, there's been over the years, I can't remember names now, but there's been XM radio hosts and whatnot that I've listened to that have gotten really popular and seem to do well enough that they're continually doing shows today. But it's that same thing. Listen to a lot of radio personalities, because when this show first started, it was going to be like a radio show with all the pops and whizzes and you know, like shit going on and the poop noises and whatnot, like the shock jock type thing. And
yeah,
here we are.
I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah, it's much easier to listen to this, I would say, than all of the and everything, you know.
Right. Yeah, podcasting, I really like it, and I think the big thing Dom goes back to is something that people don't recognize, and I don't expect my listeners to care, but like when people get into podcasting the first time, they're like, they listen to it, and they're like, I can do this, but then they start looking at, oh my God, there's so much shit you have to do in the back end. I've gotten emails before, how do I podcast, essentially, is the email, and I'm like, I figured it all out by Googling. You can too, because I'm not going to sit here and write you a how-to podcast guide, right? If you can't do it, you don't deserve to podcast, in my opinion.
So how did you end up growing it though? Because I know it's like I've Googled it, I've learned how to start it, basically just kind of got it up and running. But how do you get people that, you know, you may not know to start listening?
That one, I think that's all luck of the draw, to be honest with you. I think
I understand
right
that.
Place, right time.
There's that. Having a good understanding of SEO would really help. Like you can sort of target your episodes and your show in a few different ways that might be helpful to you. You could run ad campaigns too, but it sort of depends on how much you want to invest into it. You know, if it's really just a casual thing that you're doing because you think it's fun, you're probably better off not really investing a lot of capital into it and just like keeping your expenses down to, you know, the microphones that you purchased. But if you're like really trying to turn this into a business, like then you have to sort of take more of a business-like approach to it and not just I'm sitting in my basement doing my thing.
Yeah, no, our goal is definitely not to become gigantic. Our goal is just to enjoy doing podcasting. And if we had like a very small, consistent listenership, that'd be super awesome. I know we get random listeners from like India, or I don't even know if they're real. They're probably some fake people, but regardless, we get listeners from random places all the time. I had someone from Nepal that was listening a couple episodes. And the stats are pretty interesting to find out, at least when it comes to like SoundCloud, but not a lot of them are great. I know iTunes started instituting their own analytics in the background, but it's really bad, at least from what I've seen. I don't know if that's your case or not, but
there is no good stat tracking for podcasts, and it's almost impossible to stat track properly, regardless, because right now we use Blueberry. I think it's Blueberry,
yeah, I've heard of
it's
that.
Supposed to be, but we use them as the stat tracking, and you just append a URL onto your media. But the problem comes with the fact that it doesn't always translate well through all of the radio feeds. Like some of them,
there's so many feeds,
and like we're out on random feeds out there that I didn't even know. They just pick us up, right? Well, they might just be picking up the MP3. Well, does that Blueberry track if someone presses play on the website, right? If I play it, how many seconds do I have to listen to it before it tracks as listener, etc. Like it's never perfect. So you kind of got to take what you have with a grain of salt and go, all right, well, I have 100 listeners. Well, I could really have 200 or 300 listeners, or I could have 25. You just kind of gotta go with what you got,
Yeah, I hear random people telling me, "Hey, listen to the podcast. You really enjoyed it. Where did you?" Like, I have never heard of you. Like, I've never really talked to you in like 6 months, year, 2 years.
Sure.
You're someone from high school, and you like the podcast. I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. I'm glad you enjoy it. But yeah, that's what we normally do.
For anybody out there who's thinking about starting anything, podcast, video series, find your niche and run with it. Like, you at this point, you can't just be like a general NFL podcast talking about stats and sucking Tom Brady's dick, right? You just have to find your niche inside of that's going to bring the listeners in, that SEO is going to hit. Because like I've ran ad campaigns, the Trinity Force podcast. I think I've spent $500, $600, $700 or so ad campaigns individually, like on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. And generally, it doesn't ever increase our numbers by 1 or 2 people. And I think those are considered a success in the long run, because I say if my went out to if it went out to 5,000 people, you should always expect a 1% return, so I get 5 more listeners. But if I spend $500 to get it out there, in my opinion, that's not worth it. So there's other ways for me to spend that money to get people to listen.
Makes sense to me.
I mean, the other thing about starting a podcast is like have an idea for what you're going to go with. The number of people who find out I do a podcast, who then turn around and ask me or say like right away, well, we should start a podcast. We should totally do one. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? That's the first question out of my mouth, and they're like, oh well, I don't know. Like then we can't do anything. Like get back to me when you have an idea here, because I'm busy with another one. I don't have time to come up with one for you.
Right.
So you'd say that like the narrower the focus, the better.
Usually,
yeah, like you like narrow the focus down to one thing, and then as long as you're hitting that topic, I'd say for let's say 20 minutes in the show, then you kind of go off on tirades and tangents and whatever. That's fine.
That's the best part.
Yeah, but like have that narrow focus. Let's say that every week you're going to talk about I'm just using Tom Brady because he's the first person I saw.
That's fine.
Let's say we're going to talk about the stats for Tom Brady every single week. We are the Tom Brady podcast, but eventually we start talking about all the other quarterbacks out there, and we start talking about how shitty the Cincinnati Bengals are and how the Bearcats completely flubbed their the
Bearcats. Who the fuck is that?
they just got fucked in that shit.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati. I'm from Cincinnati, so I'm just kind of off that. But you get the idea, right? You just start going off random shit. Like, who fucking talks about the Bearcats? Well, someone's fucking talking about the Bearcats, and you are, because you just talked about how long Tom Brady's arm is, and suddenly you're talking about Cincinnati, who nobody fucking listens to. But you get what I'm talking about. Like that's
so start somewhere and go somewhere else.
Exactly. Because you get the listeners in, and then they go, wow, these personalities can really talk about whatever the fuck they want to talk about. Like, we're talking about podcasting now, and eventually we're going to move in the jungle so Beaver doesn't feel like he wasted his time.
Dude, I'm not wasting my time. I have something to say on the podcast.
No,
you know how tilted I was from this, though? I went around to the computers trying to hijack internet, just pulling them out of the back of the university computers, trying to Windows update mine, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, we're just going to go grab one from the librarian. So anyways, we're here now. So the only thing I wanted to say is I like yourself, Max. I listen to tons of podcasts, whether I'm walking, driving, at school, whatever it is. And one thing that keeps me coming back to podcasts because I was a listener for the Trinity Force, probably 2 years before I joined. And the reason I like them is because they're really consistent, not necessarily in subject matter. Yeah, they always talk about League of Legends, which is why I liked it. But the fact that they release it twice a week, pretty much nonstop, which is not like any other podcast I've listened to. And I just like the personalities. I knew when I listened to it, I would expect to learn something cool and enjoy myself because the guys are funny, have great chemistry. And same goes for other podcasts. I'm a pretty big Magic the Gathering player, so I listen to 3 or 4 of those. And the same thing, there's consistency within the episodes, whether that's release pattern, subject matter. Some podcasts like to do little segments. So every week I listen to a FIFA podcast. They'll talk about like a special player, do a little case study. And every week I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to see who they're going to talk about this week and next week and the week after and etc. So those kinds of basically consistency within the podcast itself, like Adam was saying, subject material first and then finding your niche within that. And so you could be an NFL. I don't follow football, American football, but you could be an NFL and you could just talk about I don't know, every week you talk about general stats and then you do specific little segments. I don't know anything about the sport, so
it's okay.
I'm trying to figure something out, like cool best throw or something, best play, most unique play every week, and you guys break down that play. People would be like, "Oh, this is awesome! These guys have done some real research into this, as well as having the stats." So that's what makes you guys stand out. And then once you're known for consistency, like the reason we're probably attract a lot of listeners because you type in League of Legends into iTunes in the podcast and we pop up with a ton of 5-star reviews. And there's a bunch of other podcasts, but I'm like, oh, let's click the first one and see how those guys are. And then you like them and now you just listen to them every week.
Well, that and you see 514 in front of it or whatever, the most recently released episode ends up being, like, you think, okay, these guys have been fucking doing it for a long time. Like, it's not, because there've been a lot of other league shows over the years, like generally pretty good quality, but they it's just the lack of consistency. They will do it will be several months between updates sometimes and everything, and they'll go through stretches where they're really good about showing up and putting out their content, and then other times it's just like, well, we couldn't find a time that was working for us, and we've certainly had our hiccups of late and everything. It's definitely been harder to get folks on like Mondays, for example, although tonight is very strong evidence to the contrary. But that's part of the reason why we have sort of a bigger roster these days, is just like making sure we can put out the content that we want with the frequency that we want to, even if it means like there are a few more personalities than the listeners are used to.
We've had the consistency on like having it every single and making sure we're doing it, but we definitely could get better at the Monday, Wednesday, or just the same day every single week. Because I know, like, that's one of the reasons I started listening here, at least, was because I knew when it was coming out. I could listen to it every week, and there was really no one else. Like, it was like I first started playing League of Legends. I was like, all right, I listen to podcasts. I'm sure there's someone that produces content in League of Legends. I just typed it in, and that's Turning Force is the only thing that came up, really, basically. It was like season 4, something like that. So that's basically, I agree. That's all I'm saying.
Just to really drive that consistency issue home, or point home, that years ago we had Ghost Crawler come on the podcast a couple of times, and he reached out to us, or no, he tweeted, he basically subtweeted us, but it wasn't like a mean subtweet. He was like, I love podcasts that are consistent. When I know they come out every single week at the same time, that is a great trait of a podcast. I will listen to you almost regardless of content, just because I know you're going to be out. Even, people listen to how many people listen to political podcasts. They don't agree with that, person talking, but they're there every single day at 8 a.m. They listen, right? And I think we tweeted at him. He was like, I'm specifically talking about you guys. You're awesome. I want to come on the show. And that's how we started a relationship with Riot a number of years ago, because Ghost Crawler just happened to listen because we were consistent. So yes, if you're producing content, consistency, just about the same time every week. Like, it doesn't need to be 7 a.m. every Wednesday, but I get it out every Wednesday no matter what. And I try to get it out before that time. And you go so long, people understand lives happen.
Yeah, you have the type of host that will hijack internet from their university to try and get a going. Those kind of guys.
Dude, I remember Declan sitting in the car one day, and the rain was coming down. You could hear all the raindrops hitting the top of his car as he was podcasting. The entire show was dunk, 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 dunk.
So, it is so sunny right now. Beautiful, but sunny.
Well, why don't we, we spent the better part of 20 minutes talking about podcasting and whatnot. I hope you guys, if you have more questions, Max, I'm going to say this throughout everything. Feel free to hit me up anytime. Unlike some of the other people, I will, because you came on the show, you have a podcast, you show interest, and you've already done most of the stuff. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you come to me and you say, I've already got this, can you give me more tips? I'll do it to you. Don't come to me and say, how do I do it?
No, you got to get it done yourself a little bit.
Yeah, right. So, you know what the thing I didn't talk about this week yet is the weekly challenge. We're 20 minutes in and I didn't talk about it. And I'm really feeling really bad.
I was just going to say one more thing. Just like League podcasting, there's no substitute for hard work. Adam's worked his ass off to get the podcast where it is. And there it is.
Me. That was good. That was good. That's right. Yeah, if you know what, you grow it, and they will come, right? You just keep fucking doing it. Don't ask. I yelled about this last week. Don't ask, just do. Don't ask, just do. Maybe ask how you can get it out there, but just do it. And then say, I have a product. Now what do I do with that product? Anyway, weekly challenge. Guys, I want everybody out there, weekly challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed the weekly challenge last week, and that helped you out quite a bit. If you're playing League of Legends, you need a weekly challenge for this week. Look at death timers before committing to an objective. The number one biggest thing that I see is throwing at Baron, because people wipe. They go and they kind of fuck around in the jungle and take stuff, or the death timers are too short after a wipe, and they go to take Baron, and they get wiped at Baron, and Baron gets taken out of them. And I'm not specifically just talking about Baron. This could be pushing down for towers. This could be pushing down for a dragon. This could be whatever kind of objective is out there. But if there's death timers, you need to look at it and try to evaluate how long you have before those people are going to make it to you. You can assume someone's going to take about 30 seconds to make it to Baron out of base. And if that death timer is anything less than or anything more than 10 seconds, you might have time to do it. But keep it in mind. Look at death timers. If you guys have anything to add to that, now's your time. Otherwise, I'm moving on.
I feel like that's how I throw the majority. Well, not I, but how the throws in the games I'm in happen. Well, they'll go mid tower. And then they'll be like, well, maybe we can go get this dragon also, or maybe we can go get Baron also. And then they just get caught out on the map with half HP, and we just all bought items, and then they let us back into the game that way. Or
I played a lot of
we
games.
give the game away that way.
I played a lot of games with you. The games get lost because people are not paying attention to the fact that you're at base. And, like, you had no reason to not go back to base, but for some reason, like, you've recalled, and now that's when the team decides to start shit.
Yeah, I feel like I generally play a little safer than most people, but
I would say not just death timers, but also like which character exactly is dead. If the enemy jungler is alive, that makes an objective call significantly more or less risky. If you're missing an AD carry, you don't have the damage to kill Baron. So.
Yeah, and just because
and checking the gold distribution. So, like you said, if 80 carries dead, they're probably most of the damage on their team. Or maybe not. Maybe they're 0-10. Then they don't actually matter for the team fight.
Or maybe they're Jhin, and they don't really do a whole fuckload of damage as much as their 80 carries. But so they can still take Baron through the other shreds.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. But
if you kill the support, probably doesn't really mean that whole much as far as objective taking goes. They're not the damage. Everybody else on the enemy team can still steal that.
Right.
It's true, but I mean, if like the Braun's dead and your team comp has a Kindred and like a Sivir or something, then he's pretty important for your team fights, right? So if he's dead, then that's definitely gonna be a good fight.
You definitely have an advantage. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying like you have to look at it differently if the support's the one that you caught.
I've seen some fully charged Jaina tornadoes and some Blitzcrank hooks steal Baron like on
yes, even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Classic.
Just like they tried to as well. They got it.
Just wanted to make that comment, I think.
Yes, you're still going to try. You just like have low expectations out of yourself there at that point.
The best, off topic, the best dragon steal I've seen all season is I was playing with a new Swain, and he was just like blindly walking past the pit, and we're like, maybe they're doing dragon.
Dude,
and just randomly.
No, that was in
his game.
Was
that
it?
was in his game.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, okay.
I remember
he
that.
just randomly threw a Q out. And
we
like,
lost it when that happened. We were like, no. Was that blind?
I couldn't remember. I thought it was in my game. It was so awesome. It was stuck in my brain. That shit was amazing.
Just a blind Q.
Yes. How much damage does it do? Like nothing, right?
Yeah, if it's just like it could have been more than like one or two of the lines, so it did next to nothing. That shit was amazing.
Helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god, legendary! Holy shit.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, shall we? We have a topic called role swapping here, and I'm going to let Max lead with this one.
Okay, cool. So basically, for the past 3 seasons, I've basically played only support.
Good man.
I know, right? So I joined League of Legends. I started playing. I was like, all right, what can I play? What am I going to be good at? I asked my friend. He's like, I have no idea. Just start playing stuff. I saw Afromu in one of his streams like a long time ago, and I was like, all right, I want to do that. Like, I want to be like that. And I was like, all right, sweet. My favorite player. I'll just do that. So I played support 3 seasons. Last season, finally got plat, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I got there. Like, I got it on support. But coming from there, a lot of people are like, okay, you did it on support, you just got carried the whole time. Needless to say, I didn't even duo with anyone the entire time. Like, I didn't duo maybe less than 10 times out of 100 games. So that's not really the case. It can't be possible. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna prove it. I want to prove I can make plat on a different role. So I was like, CSing, can't really do that coming from support. So I was like, all right, let me try jungle. I think jungle is where I could probably do this.
The spite roll swap.
Yeah, I was like, no, I can do this. I got this. And so I guess jungle is my secondary. So I was like, all right, this year, just jungle. I'm doing it. So I was like, all right, let me see how this goes. And I found some success, some non-success, it's going okay. I'm getting there. I think I might be able to make it, but I need a little help.
So first off, I think you picked a really good time to switch to jungle. I am genuinely convinced that games are won or lost based on the quality of the jungler. It really doesn't matter what the rest of anybody else does anymore. The better jungler wins the game. That's been my experience this entire season at this point.
Yeah, I was getting really bored with support. I felt like I didn't have much control anymore. I felt like I could do a lot last season, and then I started playing a little this season. I was like, I honestly don't know what I like. I can't really carry as hard as I would like to.
What type of supports were you in
If
playing?
you're playing ardent supports, then yeah, that's definitely the case.
Well, I played Sona. I like
Okay,
Sona
yeah.
all the way up. And I know people are like, oh, Sona mains, blah. It's like, dude, you got to hit your ult. Like, it still counts. All right. It's very important.
Days almost get to Diamond playing like Sona and Zyra exclusively back when nobody was playing Sona and Zyra. Just like, it doesn't matter. You can play whatever champion. Todd plays Garen. Nobody, like, I mean, he's the meme lord because he's Garen and everything, but Todd plays Garen and gets to Diamond and everything. Like, don't overthink the champion stuff. Like, play the champion that you like playing. But I only brought it up because if you were inclined to play tanks, then it's going to be a smoother transition than going from Sona to the jungle.
So I switched around a lot. It was Sona was the one that got me the highest win rate, so I just kept playing it. I'm like, whatever makes me win, I'll just play that. And then it was Nautilus and Thresh as like the main other ones. I love Nautilus. He's really fun, but you can't play him in the jungle anymore.
Yeah, Nautilus is a beast, even top lane.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's so cool looking too. Like, he's such a badass.
Oh, rip attack speed Nautilus. He's my favorite.
Go to attack speed Winston. There it is.
Oh, dude.
Attack speed Braum.
Was that you and me, Josh? Were talking
Yeah,
about
was that on the
other
Meta
day?
podcast?
Yeah, it was on the Meta podcast talking
What'd
about
you guys
critical
talk about?
strike Nautilus.
Oh. Dude, attack speed Nautilus with W up looked amazing. Swinging that giant fucking
It looks
hammers.
so unnatural. Attack, like, holy shit! How does he move that so fast? What the hell?
What crit strike Nautilus because he goes overhead with his anchor to get the crit strike. Isn't that what it is?
Oh, we were
I
trying
don't
to
know.
figure out
never
what it was.
Yeah, I didn't actually end up playing it, but
I'm pretty sure it's over the head. But
attack speed Nautilus is enough.
I guess that's this Beaver. This is why I had you. You asked, how important it is for me beyond, and I said this is 100% important because jungle tips, tricks, transitioning. I mean, I know we've gone over 100 times, but
I mean, I've been here
tried
since
and
9 a.m.
failed,
working
so-
on math, so been good. It's good to have a break.
I'm giving you.
So
I'm giving you the floor, Beaver. Let's talk.
Oh,
a
you're
little
giving
bit
me
about
the
something.
floor.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about jungle tips, just like general jungle tips.
Well, no,
You're giving
tips. Let's talk. Yeah, sorry, I should have made myself more clear. That's on me.
How do you jungle?
like you guys, how many
jungle?
hours do you guys have? How many days? Because I can just talk, but
When you talk, people love you, dude. You know how many compliments I get for you? I don't even send them to you anymore because I want your head to get too goddamn big.
man, you gotta send me every single one.
Coming from I get the one email, the person says he fucking hates me, and then the next one he says he loves Beaver. I'm like, Jesus Christ! All right, fine, we'll let Beaver host the goddamn show then, motherfucker.
Well, all they have to do is pay $5 a month. And
yeah, right.
Hey-o.
Nice plug.
That's
So
premium.
I guess we could go like Max. Is there any like specific things you want us to talk about?
I guess
like what do you struggle with come your games?
right. So I guess the main things I struggle with would be smites, like contested smites,
Same,
and
dude.
what to do with that. Like,
We're getting to that.
Dude, Josh is just triggered over there by my smites.
Sorry, that question right there, that sentence right there, that's like 50-50, and that's on whoever's fucking flashing over the wall. They have the advantage. They have the 51-49.
There's a smite practice tool out there actually. It was on Reddit a couple of years ago, and you could like test your timing.
mm-hmm.
And they would show you timings of like world-class junglers in like milliseconds. It's a pretty sweet thing. I'll put a link. Maybe we can link it in the description of the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
That one piece has got me tilted right there, because just saying that, like, how do I get better at smiting? You know, when I need to. Well, you don't,
No, I just
right?
do it.
Like,
Yeah.
Smiting early game is way easier than it is late game, because the thing about late game is champions have so many items, they deal so much damage. Like a Jhin 4th shot will deal more damage than your smite, without question, to an objective, because they don't really have any armor or MR. So when it comes to the late game, it's a lot more about don't go for contested objectives unless they're a guaranteed thing, or else you're just risking losing the game. And if you're in a position where you can risk to lose the game, then by all means go for it. But in the early game, the damage is a lot lower, so your smite has a lot higher chance of succeeding compared to other abilities, right? Unless it's a Cho'Gath, of course. But even then, he has an animation, or Nunu, yeah, because you smite consume at the same time. But yeah, basically what I would say is just like literally what I do in the early game is I'll focus on the objectives, just stare at the health bar, check like
The
do
top
like
left
small
corner?
mental math. No, I will stare at the dragon.
Okay.
I will not stare at the top left corner is too small for me. I'll stare at the
Okay.
dragon. If I'm seeing it's like 1,000 and my smite's 570, I'll wait until it's like one number above 570. So if it hits like 605, and then I'll go to click my smite, because by the time my smite goes down, it'll drop down lower from my next auto attack. So that's how I do it. But
Yeah, a lot of
obviously,
times I miss
I
it
play with
completely.
Josh. I know, same dude.
Like, it just
happens.
doesn't go off, like, at all.
You know,
Whatever, you had the legendary one a few weeks
Oh,
ago.
That's a symptom
I'm
of trying to
great at
get
stealing.
perfect timing.
Right.
perfect
Okay.
timing is hard.
Because
dude.
because
You have to play. And that smite thing actually really helps.
bet
So
you
I'll
have.
make sure to link that.
Okay.
But
And just do it
like,
more often, obviously.
I honestly swear to God, I find stealing Barons easier than actually last smiting them with my team around, because there's so much less pressure on you when you're flashing over the wall to get it, especially if you have full vision. All you do is focus. You don't care if you're gonna live or die. But when there's 5 of your teammates hitting it, it can be a bit harder.
Yeah,
it's
I'm not a
pressure thing,
jungler,
too.
so I don't know exactly what it's like to miss the smite, and still have it on cooldown. But I know what it's like to play Trinity and to like think I'm gonna outsmart the opponent and be like, "Yo, I'm gonna hold my R so long, I'm gonna bait them," and then you just miss it completely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar. Pretty similar. It throws the game either way.
It has been, dude. Just watch LCS within the last
Mhm.
couple patches. The number of smite steals is outrageous this season, and it just continues to go up because teams they don't have the luxury of taking a uncontested Baron. Generally speaking, you kind of have to do it in a contested state, and the person, it's like 51-49 when it comes to someone jumping over the wall and flash stealing it, right? And they've said that forever. Because like it all goes what Beaver said. When someone just flashes over the wall and all you do is smite, literally all you have to do is just watch the Baron health. Yeah, they might have to watch a thresh hook or something coming over the wall, but it's on that person to steal it and the other person to just be faster. And it's a lot harder out
And
here
if they
when we're
miss,
playing.
if they miss, they weren't expected to hit it.
Yeah, exactly, right. There's nothing on you.
That's-
But-
It's one of the lowest risk, highest reward plays in the game when it really comes down to it.
yeah, it really is.
We cut you there, Adam. What are you saying?
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just going to say that this is doubled, so when we're playing, I don't know where you're stationed at. I don't want to say station. I don't know where you are geographically. And I know you said you're East Coast.
East, yeah.
So it's potentially, I don't know if you're next to Chicago or if you're all the way East Coast, whatever it is. But like
Upstate New York.
See, so your ping should be what, to 20-ish, 30,
It's
something?
40, I think. It's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah, so you've got a relatively low ping, but like depending on where the person is geographically located to the nearest server to them, like you could be at a significant advantage or disadvantage just based on your ping alone. Having 100 ping versus someone with 30 ping, you're likely going to lose that dragon steal every single time.
I play on 90 ping, flat 90.
Yeah, I went from 30 ping to like 50.
It doesn't bother me.
So
I think the biggest thing is if it's consistent or not.
It's
not necessarily the
the spikes.
Yeah, if anything under like 100, if it's consistent, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference personally.
Yeah, consistency is key. Like I used to play on a MacBook Air when I first started. I still made it to Platinum 5, but what happened in team fights is I would consistently, every time there were more than 5 champions in a fight, I would drop down to 18 FPS for the duration of it. So I only played champions that required me to be able to hit my abilities with 18 FPS. So I was playing the likes of a Mumu, Volibear, just easy straight up champions, because I knew when I got in those big team fights, all I could do was like press some buttons. And I got there. I got there. I did, but I knew I had to play around what I was. Yeah, no kidding. But I mean, Quas has made it a challenge around 200 ping. The ping definitely helps. It's all about the consistency.
Before they did the server change, I played on East Coast with like 90 ping for probably 3 years. And then when they finally, or maybe 4, and then they finally switched the servers over, and now I get 30. And 30 is definitely better. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. 30 is better, but it's not that big of a difference to where it's going to make or break the player alone.
No.
Especially for the level that we're playing at, right? It's not like we're playing top level Korean solo queue where they all have like 3 ping. I used to be on 20 because I live like close to Portland, so that's where the servers used to be. But I didn't. I mean, went up to 90. I was like, it's kind of.
I mean, it's not at the end of the world, but it's like it's way different. Like dodging skill shots is so much easier because I played like this. Like as somebody who only plays like the hard melee, you gotta dodge a bunch of stuff. You gotta dodge a bunch of stuff, and like yeah, I feel like Happy Feet sometimes, man. Like and it's like much easier now than it used to be. And have you guys ever seen those charts where they actually show how like the higher up in ELO you go, like the average ping actually goes down. So like it does matter, but
of course. But yeah, you can definitely climb. Like one of the nice things about the 18 FPS team fights is that I wanted to take the skill shots because I was a tank. So I mean, it worked out.
I mean, from that perspective, I can't argue with you.
Yeah, if you're out there, you're playing on ping and your ping is fluctuating, because let's say you're playing on Wi-Fi and your Wi-Fi is inconsistent, so your ping is going up and down. You need to fix that. Some people out there that could be your problem. Maybe you're not a bad player. Maybe you are emailing us and you were legitimately, some people will email us, I'm not terrible, I'm good at this, look at my OPGG, but I'm always dying a lot. Why? Well, maybe you're playing on Wi-Fi and your ping is going from 20 to 150 every fucking 2 seconds. I complain if I jump up to 150 at this point. I can feel it. It feels like I'm playing underwater at 150 because you get so used to playing it, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, right? So, yeah, fix that if anybody out there, and get yourself a good gaming chair.
Dude, I actually play on a chair right now that has, like, basically nails sticking out of it, and it's so uncomfortable.
That is
no wonder I'm hard sarcasm. Like platinum.
that's the big, like, joke going around a lot of communities right now is, why is he so good? Well, he has a really good gaming chair.
It's too bad we're not sponsored by gaming chairs right now. It'd been a good plug, dude.
I'm gonna use those guys.
Advertising gold tonight.
We don't need gaming chairs. We have Buddha boxers. The quality boxers made out of bamboo. You don't need a chair when you're wearing Buddha boxers. See? Look at that. That was perfect.
That was good.
It's like sitting on air. Damn it! Why did I say that? It's like sitting on air. Fuck! All right.
Yeah, that'd have been better.
I'm working on it, all right, Jason from Buddha Boxers. I'm going to get there, but one of these days, you're going to have the best plug from us you could ever have. So I like this question over here. On a champ with a huge level 6 power spike, is it worth power farming till 6? Max, I think you wrote that in there and that question.
So, I mean, a lot of the champions I'm playing right now are Evelyn and Sejuani. Those are the 2 main ones I've been playing. Evelyn because I have no idea why. I was winning a bunch, so I was like, shit, let's let it ride.
That's how I played Jin and made Diamond. I don't know why. Fuck it, I got there.
I guess it's because they can't see me. I don't really know. I was like, whatever. And then Sejuani, it kind of is a support jungle, so it made a lot of sense. I liked her when she had the old ult when they would hit and it would get multiple people, but the new one will work. So that's kind of why, because it's really helpful to be level 6. And I did this in a recent game where I just power farmed. I was like, let's see how this goes. And I felt powerful, but everything else was like fire around me. Everyone died and nothing good happened. So I was like, eh.
Was that on Sejuani or?
That was on Evelyn.
Okay.
I have to say, those two champions are very different. So Evelyn 100% needs her level 6. We've talked about this many times on the podcast. She gets 3 things when she's level 6: empowered abilities, invisibility, which is a monstrous, and then her ultimate, which is a huge execute, and it's AoE. So like a triple power spike at level 6. So Sejuani gets another stun, and she already has a stun, a knock up, and a slow in her kit, whereas Evelyn has nothing. So a lot of Evelyn's early game is opportunistic. So if you do have an overextended lane, you want to be ganking them, getting your gold count up, so that when you do hit your level 6, it's going to be even more impactful. But when you're playing champs like Sedge, who do have, I would say, like, she's not A tier material when it comes to ganking. She's not the best of the best, but she is like just below that, because she has a gap closer, slows, stuns, knock up. She has the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's your side lane. Like, both of your side lanes probably have melee attacks, so that's going to get the stun off faster.
Yeah, and you can layer your crowd control with her too. Like, you can walk up to someone, slow them with the W, and then hit the stun on them, and then when they go to flash, then you can chase them down with your Q, right? So you do have multiple ways, but when you're on Evelyn, you really just have your burst damage to rely on, and then whatever your teammate has. So I would say on Sejuani, if nothing's going on in the game and everyone's just chilling, then you can definitely go for it. And I do that too sometimes with the likes of, Skarners and Warwicks and stuff. But if the gank opportunities are there, you got to take them. But on Evelyn, you don't want to be forcing things on Eve, because if you get caught out by a stronger duelist in the early game, then you're going to be dying. And if you die in her early, the game becomes ultimately a lot more difficult.
Yeah, that was another one of my questions, was basically how do you deal with early invades? Because a lot of times I get hit at the buff like constantly, so I'm like, I'm lower health and stuff like that. So
I play tons of Shaco on my alternate accounts. So
alternate, that's a good word.
My alternate accounts, I'm not gonna call them Smurfs. I have like a gold 3 account, so I'll play a lot of Shaco in that, dueling with friends and stuff, because I find he's fun and people don't know how to play against him. So Shaco is crazy strong if he finds you in his jungle, because he's probably set up boxes, he's taking your camps, he's going to be higher level than you, and he likely has Ignite. So running into him, the whole goal when you're playing against a counter jungler is to not run into them, right? So if you're playing into Shaco, you have to do things abnormally. So if you're going in against a Lee, you're going to get invaded. Let's just say 90% chance. Do not just do a standard buff Wolves buff, because that's what everyone does, and that's really easy to predict. And when I'm playing Shaco, even I'll go into games knowing or thinking that they're going to do that. So now if 90% of junglers do that route, and I do my route 100% of times, which would be 2 camps, then get the red, then kill them there, I have a 90% success rate across all those games to get first blood, right? But you got to be that 10%. So try and invade their jungle, figure out where they're starting. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is to remember that when they're invading your jungle, their jungle is completely open. So try and get down some early defensive wards. And if you see them going into your top side, make sure you're making your way down to their bot side. For example, if you know Shaco's starting blue, you could probably go invade his red buff pretty freely, as long as the jungler isn't there, or you could do buff to buff and then leave. So you just have to come up with alternate paths that make sure you avoid them in the early game, and then as soon as you exit the early game, you can beat them through your increased utility.
Jungle has like its own meta game going on, and I don't mean that in the way that leaves it. I mean it in like, there's just so much mindfuckery. It's like, all right, well, he's going to be expecting me to do this, so I have to not do that. I can do a lot of other things, but I can't do the one thing that I was probably going to do, because that's what they're expecting me to do.
Exactly.
And, that's such a weird concept for a lot of players to wrap their mind around, because especially, probably, below like mid gold and everything, you probably don't run into a lot of counter junglers. Every now and then you'll run into one, but by and large, like you're not running into so many that you really can train yourself to deal with it.
I think a lot of my problem is I'm running into a lot of like low plat or high gold junglers that have been doing it for years. And so they end up actually invading me earlier. So I had a prime example, and I'm going to plug the Patreon, patreon.com/TForce Network. get your replay reviews. I had the replay review, and I was like, all right, sweet. I watched the replay review. I was like, this is gonna be great. I learned so much. I'm gonna do everything that they said. I'm playing Eve. I get to my second camp. I get invaded like immediately by a Kaisa. I was like, all right, this is horrible start. I intentionally feed basically the rest of the game. I go like 3 and 16. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a break. That was not good.
Okay. I haven't watched the game, but so this is another thing. If you don't know where they, did you have more to say? Sorry, I don't.
No, this is just a different game because I got the replay review and it was really helpful. But I've had a bunch next game.
So here's another thing you can do. Junglers basically need leashes unless you're Shaco. They need leashes to deal with the first camp, or else they're not going to be healthy enough to invade you. So you can see, you always have to check who's late to lane. And at the level we're playing, no laners are smart enough to pretend to leash. Right. So if the top laner is instantly in top lane, they're not starting top side. If the bot lane is late to bot side, then they've probably started on their blue. So you should, every single game should almost, I would say 90%, 95% of chances know what buff they started. So then you can plan around that, right? So if you're playing a weak early game jungler like Evelyn, and then you just realize that they started on their red buff, and you think you're going to get invaded, you can just run from your red right over to their blue and take it. And put a defensive ward over the wall. And then if they come, you can just smite it and run out. So you got to use their starting side of the map to your advantage.
Right. And to all the support players and AD carries listening to the show, ping if your lane is missing right away at the start of the game and everything, because that should tell your jungler something useful.
Yeah, even say, I think jungle started topside this game if it's unusual that they did so. Right. And then the jungler will be like, oh, maybe they're going to invade me. So, and then there's another thing you can do too. I always make my top Todd. I don't know how many top laners you see that just run under their tower, check their phone, AFK, alt tab, go on Twitter.
I mean,
it happens all the time. I ping them
before games so I can get all my coughs out.
It pisses me off, dude. All they have to do is they have to go from top tower and they stand at your red buff, and then right before they leave for lane, they can drop a ward there, or you get your mid laner to do it. I know they'll lose out on their ward for 3 minutes, but that's going to help your jungler's early game, because then if you see you get instantly invaded, then you know their bot side is open and you can.
I miss being able to do that.
When it comes to that, like, I'm willing to negotiate with my jungler. Okay,
sure.
Like you can have my ward wherever you want it, at whatever time you want it, as long as it's not going to make me late to lane, and as long as you're going to give me some pressure during that time period where I no longer have vision, where I would normally. And if you can't do that, you ain't getting my fucking ward. Like,
okay, so it is negotiable. You're right. If I'm jungling against a champion that is not really a threat for me, if I'm 1v1ing them or they're invading me, then I won't ask for your ward. But if I'm jungling against a Shaco, a Lee Sin, someone who pretty much consistently invades in the early levels, then I will probably ask for your ward. And in return, you're going to get pressure, because when I know where the enemy jungler is, I have an advantage over them. So then I can work the map a lot more easier, and thus I'm likely going to have a better early game.
Well, so sometimes it's like 50-50. Like sometimes people think that because they have the site, like that means that whatever goes down, like they win too. Like, I'm not saying this is you, but I've seen it in my games too, where I have actually done this where I've warded and we get the vision and then they invade, and then my top laner roams because they're closer and they get there first, and I have no mobility, and then somebody on my team, somebody on my team that has 2 buffs probably dies. Somebody on the enemy team probably gets it, and then
So we've talked all about
how do you sorry, let me turn this into something productive. So let me cut you off.
I was gonna cut you off. I was just about a point to add to all of this.
How do you invade with that? How do you play with that vision? If you are planning to invade. And safely, like, well, what's the safe choice there? Because rather than feed double buffs, like, there's got to be something smarter you can do.
If I'm planning to invade, well, a lot of evading too comes down to what pressure your lane has. So if I've just done a standard 3 camp clear and I find myself topside, just cleared my blue buff, and I'm playing, let's say Lee Sin. I don't play him, but let's say I'm playing Lee Sin, or just Warwick. It doesn't matter who I'm playing. I'm full health. I've done my clear. I think I'm probably a little faster than them. I'm not 100% sure. But my Garen's getting shoved in by a Teemo, and my mid laner is getting shoved in by a Heimerdinger. If I go invade that, even if I find them, chances are I'm going to get rotated on. Do I want to waste my flash for potential of getting a kill? Probably not worth it. So maybe I should look to gank one of those lanes. If the lanes are even, then more likely the chances that rotations happen are less because they're going to lose out on something, right? Because if the lanes are shoved in for the enemy team, they're not missing anything by rotating to you. Right. But if they do come for you, you can waste their time, and now your top laner has a waves advantage, and that's a win for you. So you do have to, a lot of like lane pressure comes into it.
I mean, it depends.
Either way, I'll go over and I'll throw a ward over the wall just to see what's going on. Get a little vision for the.
You almost have to have like a mental checklist of things so that you're prepared to take an action in like a moment's notice. You know, like how quickly is X opponent going to get here if I take Y action? You know, what am I going to do? What am I able to do if they show up and everything? How quickly can I get out of trouble? You know, how quickly can my team respond in theory?
It's a lot riskier now if you don't have a gap closer and you're invading because the blast plant does not spawn, so you don't just have a free out. Because that used to be a thing, you just invade on anyone and be like, hey, you guys, I'll just blast plant out. But that's not a thing anymore. So it's all about risk reward. And at the end of the day, it's a 5-player game. So you just got to, pick your best options.
I'm always a fan of going safer on the invades because I'm sure Todd can attest to this. Your lane is almost over if your opponent gets double buffs level 3. That shit is impossible to deal with.
Oh my god.
It is.
No, it's every lane. It's not just the solo lanes. If somebody gets double buffs, it ruins the lane.
Like because it usually comes with first blood too. It's also 400 gold.
It's brutal.
But so like I said, these guys make a great point. If the risk is too high, then it's probably not worth doing it, and it's just fine to just be safe. But if, the reward is super high, like my waves are even, I'm playing a really high-powered early game jungler like Shaco, I go for it. I got a gap closer to get out. I'm 80, maybe 15% that I die, 85% that it goes well. Then I'm going to go for that because if I get first blood, then I'm going to run away with the game. It probably sucks laning when your jungler gets first blooded by theirs in your own jungle. That's a bad feeling.
So
I'm not getting help.
Taking this a step in a different direction and something that's just came up within the last 6-7 patches or so is that we're talking about specifically invading. Looking at CS totals, pressing tab, you can actually tell how many camps and what camps junglers have taken, and understanding the enemy jungler and how quickly they clear. If they have like 24 CS, we can assume X, Y, and Z camp has already been taken, etc. Like you can look at CS totals in the enemy when you have the good thing that like a lot of the LCS players do. They'll go ward deep in the jungle. So as soon as that enemy jungle, all they do is pass by that ward. That's all we need is them just to pass by that ward because we can see their updated creep score, and now we can go, okay, they have 20 CS, they took XYZ camp, I know that they're headed to this camp, 1 because I saw them, and 2 because I see how much they've taken, it's this far in the game. You see how the information you deduce by just a creep score, like that is like that is the after you've mastered everything else, right, or you've started to master, or you have a really good feel of that. That's the next level of how to counter jungle, is looking at the enemy CS score and figure out what camps they've taken based on how many CS they have.
Yeah, it's often really useful in the sort of 2 to 5 camp range. So you can tell, they have double buffs, have they only done 3 camps or are they done 4? And then you can kind of figure out where they're going from that.
You can tell what 3 camps they've done as well, because Raptor's obviously more CS than...
No, they all give you 4.
Oh, yeah, they all give you 4, right.
So you can't tell what camps anymore, but it's a little easier now. But one more point, I meant to bring this up about 15 minutes ago. I know I was talking about, the psychology of playing against counter junglers. If you show up to one of your buffs and it's been taken, or you see them just leaving, don't tilt and go and take theirs, because at the end of the day, it's just 1 camp's worth of experience. And maybe you're a little bit behind. Warn your teammates of the pressure that your enemy jungler has, and then just go ahead and farm to try and catch up, because they're likely, because they're aggro, probably going to make a few plays, and if you guys can weather that storm, then you're going to be able to catch up no problem. It's not like Season 4 where all the experience in the jungle is around the 2 buffs. It's completely evenly spread, so you don't have to worry. Almost evenly spread. So losing 1 camp here and there isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, I've noticed that if I get counter jungled and my buff's gone, I just go right to the next camp. It seems to be like, just don't waste my time. I feel like a lot of time I am wasting time, honestly, from a jungle perspective, because I'm trying to figure out when and should I push it, should I not push it? Like, is this a worthwhile play to go for? But early game, honestly, with the champions I've been playing, mostly it's just keep farming and get to 6.
It's totally fine.
Something that's actually helped me a lot is looking my own teammates up on op.g, but not the other team, because if I see the other team, then I get scared. I'm like, I know, but the problem is it's helped me figure out who could actually help me grow the lead. So like I'll have someone that's like a plat 4 top lane Renekton, and then the rest of my team is all like silver 1, gold 4. You know what I mean? So is that a worthwhile thing to do, or do you say just don't do it, just go into the game blind?
My feeling is always like let your team's actions in that game sort of dictate how you're gonna go from there and everything. Maybe your you might have the platform top laner and everything, but you know, what if it's his or her first game of the day, or what if that person's like just sort of on a cold streak and for whatever reason can't get into a rhythm, and you have the silver 1 duo lane, but they're just fucking crushing it. Well, then you were focusing on like the wrong group and everything, and you missed the opportunity. Whereas if you'd have just gone into the game like treating all of your teammates equally, you really could have like let the game let their play dictate your or influence your decision making.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't try to get too far into your own head, right? Like just jump in the game. We all know I play Jhin. I just jump in the fucking game, and the thing I complained about it last podcast. I said I can't hit W's straight in front of my face, and then I got out of my own head. I think it was I was playing Sunday with Dom, and I said, Dom, I can actually hit these W's now because I let it chill, right? Like before, I was like, grenade would go bounce, 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 hit them. Suddenly, I could just W right away. No, I let it fucking chill a minute. Then I W them because, like, it's just you kind of got to let things chill. Don't let it get in your own head. Same thing with that. Dom made a really good point there about it. I don't feel like I should ever look up I look at everybody after the game because I go, wow, I really fucked up that Kai'Sa this last game. Well, shit, the dude was gold 3. No wonder I fucked him up. 1, it's Kai'Sa, it sucks, and 2, because the guy wasn't nearly as good as me, right? Like that's kind of what I go through my head. Or, damn, I had a really hard laning phase. Whoa, wow, that guy was plat 5. No wonder, you know, he's on equal footing as I am. That type of thing. I look it up after to get a better idea how I played so that I can adjust for next game rather than trying to adjust, because I know that when I was playing Vantage League, I played against a Masters level ADC, and I had already looked him up, but I tried not to let it get in my head. And I didn't die to him in lane, but he fucked me up later in team fights. But because I didn't let him get in my head during the laning phase, I didn't die because I didn't try to make some really, you know, crazy plays or something around him. You gotta get where I'm going with this. I'm just mumbling at this point, but that's the whole idea.
Dude, that's a good point, though. Yesterday I played against a 5 stack of like King Nidhogg in the jungle, Red Mercy mid, Heizendong top, and then some Masters duo bot lane. And my team was just a bunch of single, you know, diamond players. And I didn't know who they were. I knew Red Mercy was, so I camped them, of course. And,
right?
I got first blood on their jungler. Just like I just invaded him, and he didn't expect it. He probably didn't respect me, and I just insta-killed him. And then I went top, killed the Dong, and then went mid and killed their mid laner. We ended up losing because our Kog'Maw AFK'd, unfortunately. It happens.
The worst.
It happens. But the guys, like, their Thresh player is probably the best Thresh I've ever played against. He's just everywhere. But the point is, like, I didn't really know who they were, so I was pretty confident. I just played my game, right? But, I mean, I know Josh advocates for looking people up.
Yeah, I look up people before game. I mean, if it's gonna psych you out, I wouldn't think you should do it. But I do it because I use it to decide where I'm gonna focus my attention that game. So if they have really high win rate spot, I'm gonna try and roam bot a lot. Or if someone on my team might have a low win rate, I'm gonna try and maybe avoid them or maybe help them depending on how the game goes. But if it gets in your head, I don't think you should look it up.
Yeah, but that's why I never did the other team, especially that. I definitely would get in your head if you're doing, like, my own teammates. Who should I focus on? Who will help me win? But
yeah,
I see that both sides, I guess.
Personal preference. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to. So we just kind of, this conversation kind of petered out here, and I don't want to necessarily end the podcast on that note. Max, I want to give you your moment. Other questions that are in here, other things about role swapping, anything else that's, you know, sitting in this document or outside the document? Is there anything else that you know that you're looking for answers for, or we should be discussing right now?
Nothing necessarily. I think we went over the main points, especially with like the mentality of jungle. I think that helped a lot. I think a lot of people go through the same things when they go through a role swap is the mentality. How to be as aggressive as you can and not just be trying to save people the entire time. I know Dom gets that. But if we could just hit like a listener question or two, I would love to do that.
Fuck, let's do it. We can do this one right here. Breeze writes in. She says, I loved playing Rakan before the support item update that got rid of Sightstone. How do you play Rakan now?
I also liked Rakan a lot more before the support item change there. And it's mostly because I thought Talisman was just such a great item for him. The Ancient Coin felt pretty good because he can't get Relic Shield procs with any type of reliability. And honestly, he has to commit pretty hard to try to get the stealthy stuff going as well. So Ancient Coin always felt pretty good on him, and then it turned into just what was a great item, and then they got rid of it, and it was always really frustrating because Righteous Glory is still in the game, but I've bitched about a whole bunch of times. It's got 1,100 gold cost, and that's just painful when you're a support player. You don't have that type of money lying around. You need like low combined cost items. But to that end, I mostly play him pretty similar. I tend to go for a lot more like the tank type items and everything, like the survivability stuff, because if I can stay alive, that gives me more opportunity to do stuff that is going to piss my opponents off later on. So I really like Locket on him still. I like Righteous Glory when I can get it, but it's not usually a rush item anymore, just because he does get movement speed through his ult. He's got a lot of tools to kind of hop around. He didn't need Talisman. It just felt really good. I'm pretty down on Shirelia's Reverie, which is supposed to be coming out with the next patch, but I do think it's going to be good on Rakan because he synergizes with HP, ability power, cooldown reduction, and then that movement speed active, which are all on that item. And it'll be cheap. And otherwise, like it's just still kind of doing the same thing and everything. Get in there, disrupt the fights, get out, let your cooldowns come back, and then get back in and frustrate them again.
There's links outside.
Oh,
like,
a real one?
Yeah, maybe like 100 meters away in the trees.
What's that in feet?
Like 300.
Yeah, what's that in American Imperial units, motherfucker? American Freedom units, motherfucker.
How many yards is that?
I don't know. Maybe like 95.
How many French fries is that? How many Freedom fries is that?
Too many to count, man.
I'm gonna do this next listener question because our guest can actually answer it. John writes in, let's put a hypothetical out there. Your support is first pick, blind. What types of support do you prefer to see? Table's open.
All right. So I'm gonna start, I guess.
Fuck you.
Flex that luck spot, boys.
Right, continue.
Okay, so when I see a first pick blind support, I want tank. I want as much tank as possible because I feel like you need a minimum of 1 to 3 tanks. Like, I don't care what meta is, at least for me. I'm like, get some tanks on this. I love seeing Galio mids. I love seeing like Swain mids, Frail.
Yeah, that boy's OP.
So OP. But for supports, Alistar, honestly, I love seeing him. Braum. Anyone that does CC in his tank, I think are great blind pick supports, at least from my jungle perspective.
If I am first pick and like Lulu made it through the board or made it through bans and everything, she's usually what I'm picking if I'm picking blind, just because she's good into almost every comp. She deals with a lot of the other champions out there. No, like this is when I'm playing solo. I'm playing with you guys.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Continue.
If I'm playing with you guys, it's a different story and everything. The other one I do go to is Alistar. I will first pick Alistar pretty regularly just because he is sort of my... I'm
fucking with you. I'm just fucking with you. I'm just legitimately trying to fuck with you.
All right. Well, you accomplished that. Good job. But yeah, so Lulu and Alistar are the ones that I usually go for and everything. They both accomplish 2 very different things. It also depends on what my team is hovering. You know, if they're hovering certain champions, and I think I have a support that'll synergize well with them, then I will, gravitate towards that. Or if they're hovering, a lot of AD, I'll think, well, this is an interesting opportunity for me to play Morgana, so I might grab that early or something. But if I don't have any other knowledge and I'm just like totally clueless as to what the comps are going to be like, it's Lulu and Alistar for me.
Hovering's really good. Yeah, I was gonna say, because I always hover Evelyn, because then it gives people an idea, hey, we need some tanks, and if no one's willing to switch or pick tanks, then I'd go to Sejuani. I think hovering more people should do, honestly.
The reason I'm fucking with you, Dom, is because I'm always hovering Jhin. So I want Zyra or Morgana always.
Yeah, I know. Well, now that you're playing Jhin again and everything, because it's so easy to go up, drop W, and they're not paying attention to that. Because like, black pool or dark pool, whatever the hell it is, no big deal, not a lot of damage. But then the Jhin route comes, and then like things get real bad for them.
My personal favorite is Janna. Very few team comps get worse with the Janna in it.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Janna's the perfect first pick.
Yeah, consistently the best champion in league, pretty much.
Do I like seeing her? Not really, but that is the greatest chance for a W, in my opinion.
Blind pick supports. Shit, man. I'm playing, like I said, I'm playing Jhin now. I'm only playing fucking Jhin. If I'm not playing Jhin, I want a Lulu, right? Like, just give me a Lulu, because she's phenomenal. I want an all-around support that's great. I don't want a Leona. I don't want an Alistar. I want a fucking Janna, or I want a Lulu on my team.
Why you banned those two?
I just hear people talking shit. Like, Marine's over here. He's just fucking talking shit. He's not.
Dude, I was fucking muted for like 20 minutes or something. I've been talking to myself this whole time. I do it on stream. No, I do it on the podcast. I don't know. Yeah, what the fuck?
It's gonna show up on the show.
I was like, why is everybody fucking stiff arming me, dude? Nobody's responding to anything I say. What the fuck?
Yeah, and I just happened to look at you. So you were talking like, oh, dude, he did this on accident with the muting. It was.
Oh man.
Because every now and then you'll mute yourself on purpose, and so that's why I stopped saying anything about it. But this time it backfired.
Yeah, I messed up the podcast. Sorry, guys. Well, not really. The quality was good. I was just more of an observer this time. And Lancifer is going to have to mute a lot of content.
It can be salvaged as long as you don't delete it. Am I right, Dom?
No.
Yeah.
The new kid on the block.
Shot fired. Like that was that was the crow, and I had to eat it.
Okay, so people out there think that was the only lost episode ever. I guarantee you there was at least 2 more lost episodes, and one of them had Dom in them. One of the other ones did.
Was it my fault?
No, you and I came to the conclusion that we should never air that episode ever.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, that was a bad episode.
And that was and there was another episode out there 300 episodes or so ago. We decided we should never air that episode ever.
I've been a part of 2 we're not going to air this episodes.
Yeah.
Like it has to be really bad for us to go back and say like, look, this is just not, we can't release this. This is not good enough and everything. Like most weeks, I mean, I always say like we put out the best show we possibly can, and some weeks that's a really good show, and other weeks like we were working really hard to make it 60 minutes and everything. But I'm almost always proud of the content that we put out, and so it's like the handful of shows that we're like, I will be embarrassed if we put this out that we have like just withheld basically.
I think we reserve the right to do that, just based on the fact that we've done 500 fucking episodes. So, but I'm gonna end it there. That's over an hour. I think we answered everything. I can see people starting to peter out. This is why another tip and trick for a podcast. I think an hour or just over is like the perfect amount of time for a podcast for anybody. I think people peter out after an hour, unless they take breaks. I know I've heard some podcasts where like
Josh and I don't peter out after an hour.
Beaver like the marathon shows.
We go real long on those.
That's because fucking Beaver just talks your ear off. Nothing wrong with that. He just talks. Beaver just talks. Yeah. That's all right.
I get guests on who can talk as well.
You know what happens.
Definitely.
We got people on. Max, thank you so much for joining us on the episode. We had a lot of fun. I hope your other podcast, or your podcast, I should say, does significantly better after coming on and getting some tips and tricks. And again, if you have any questions for anybody, feel free to ask us. Anybody out there listening in podcast land, you can ask us as well. Feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com. Max, this is your last chance. Let them know who you are, where to find you, and what the name of your podcast is.
My name is Max Kessering. So thank you for guys having me on the podcast. You can find the Masters of Mediocrity, basically anything, any podcast player you want. If we're not on there, just send us an email at mediocritypod@gmail.com. We have a Facebook that I curate. It's just the Masters of Mediocrity. Same with the Instagram account, which is just pictures of me and my brother, honestly. Just steezing. Honestly, it's pretty goofy, but we have a lot of fun. Come listen to our podcast, The Masters of Mediocrity.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everybody else here, guys. Wednesday, we have patch 8.6 to discuss. Hopefully, we have everybody around for that. Thank you so much for listening to the Trinity Force podcast. Go out there, support us, support our sponsors, and everybody else, guys. That's right. Peace. We'll see you all next week.
Have a good one.
See you later, dogs.
See you guys.
Later, dogs.
Later.